But James Corbett is an independent journalist, has been living and working in Japan since 2004. He's been writing and producing the Corbett Report. That's people really found to be extremely informative and incisive. An online multimedia news information source. His forthcoming book, Reportage, Essays on the New World Order, will be available very soon. CorbettReport.com is his website. He's also got another announcement of why he wasn't in Japan that he's going to make on air. We appreciate him being a tough guy with a stiff upper lip, chin up, joining us, and everybody should pray for James Corbett and his family. James, first, because you said you wanted to make the announcement, why you weren't in Japan when this happened, joining us via video Skype back in Japan. You got back yesterday, and then let's get into what you're seeing on the ground there.
Right. Well, as I told my listeners just before I went on my little hiatus, unfortunately, I was dealing with the loss of my mother, and I was going back to Canada for her funeral. And incredibly enough, it was just the day after the earthquake that I actually left Japan to go back to Canada, and I spent over a week there, and I've just gotten back to Japan. So during that time, I obviously wasn't following the news very carefully. So you were covering things. I've been catching up over the last couple of days. You were covering things excellently and are probably better informed about this than I am. But I've gotten back and I'm scrambling to catch up. And so now I'm back and I'm working on the Corbett Report again and conducting interviews and writing articles. And
well, we're sorry for your loss. But now, James, you were there for the earthquake. Tell us where you are located in Japan.
So I am on the western side of the main island of Honshu, and it's about, I would say, 700 kilometers. That's about 400 miles from my American friends, southwest of Fukushima. So it's quite a ways away. And obviously, out here, we didn't feel a thing. The first I ever heard of the earthquake was when I was online, looking at news. So I didn't feel a thing. There was no tsunami here. It was just the images coming in, and I was watching them like everybody else. And at the time, of course, I was just preparing to go back to Canada, so I wasn't thinking about the effects of the tsunami or the lasting effects. But obviously, we're seeing that now. But as you may know, I'm an English teacher here in Japan. I teach at elementary schools and junior high schools. And today was the elementary school graduation ceremony because the school year ends here in March rather than in July like back home. So people were having the graduation ceremony, and I was there watching it. And we had a moment of silence at the beginning of it for the victims of the earthquake and the tsunami. And it was pretty powerful. During that moment of silence, I was thinking about an image that I saw in the newspaper this morning, and I'll hold it up for the prisonplanet.tv viewers out there. For radio listeners, I'll describe it. It's basically someone kneeling in front of a twisted wreck of metal and just remains. And this is actually a bus that was transporting kindergarten children who were being transported away during the earthquake, and they were trying to get to high ground, and the tsunami came. And it took over the bus, it flipped it around, it landed on its side in a pool of gasoline that was leaking from a gas station, and the gasoline ignited. And those children end up as charred cinders. And these types of stories are coming out absolutely every single day, and we're just seeing more and more horrific scenes from what the devastation that took place. Over 24,000 now dead and missing. So just indescribable scenes coming out of that part of Japan. And obviously I'm not there, but obviously everyone is thoughts and prayers are with those people right now, including myself. And now as we speak, of course, the black smoke is belching out of reactors 2 and 3 with their deadly payload of iodine-131 and cesium-234 and cesium-237. And as you just mentioned, reactor 2 is now spurting out neutron beams. So it's a horrific situation, and it's only getting worse.
What do you think of Ann Coulter writing articles and going on TV with a straight face and saying this is actually going to keep us all from getting cancer and it's nutritious? We have called her booking agent and said, we're going to pay the fee, which is a lot of money, and the airline tickets, everything. And they get very angry with us. I demand she go to Fukushima, and if it's so good, and drink water out of that reactor.
There is just no accounting for that ghoul and the despicable comments that she's making. And I really hope that a year or two from now, when there are little children dying of leukemia out there, I really hope that she looks in the mirror and realizes that she has sold her soul to go and just pimp these ideas for these corporations to which she's enslaved to. It's just despicable and it's unthinkable. And I'm glad at least that no one's listening to the things that she has to say.
Well, it's insane. I mean, I wonder if she actually believes it, because it is insane.
It's unthinkable. I
mean, she talked about the people in Japan. She said it's good for them.
Well, I hope she'll come. I hope she'll come, and I'll be here to welcome her and lead her to the site so she can go and experience it for herself.
Well, I don't want you to do that. We know it's deadly. And as the plant head said last Friday, breaking down and crying, saying he couldn't cover up anymore, he said this is lethal. This is going to kill people. And we have gotten reports of people in and around the area with red faces vomiting. But the Japanese are so stoic, a lot of them are still following orders. Bloomberg reports Fukushima engineer says he helped cover up flaw at Daiichi number reactor 4. That's Bloomberg. That came out last night. One of the reactors at the crippled Fukushima nuclear plant may have been relying on flawed steel to hold the radiation in its core, according to an engineer who helped build its containment vessel 4 decades ago. And I don't want to pronounce his name wrong, but it's the article's up there on Bloomberg. You've lived in Japan now for 8-9 years, so you could probably pronounce it. But dealing with this, are the Japanese people buying into the propaganda? Because first they said no problem. Now they admit 1,600 times safe levels of radiation up to 20 kilometers away, most of it going out to sea towards the U.S. Iceland reporting they picked up radiation yesterday that's already gone over North America towards Europe. I mean, what are the Japanese saying and doing here? Does it concern them that the U.S. military is talking about forced evacuations of Americans because it's so radioactive?
Well, the sense here is that I think the Japanese people are smarter than that, and they know not to trust the government and TEPCO on things like these, because, of course, we've seen all sorts of nuclear disasters here, from the Tokaimura incident in 1999, which was the Tokyo Electric Power Company, and it was they lied over and over and over again about the extent of that disaster, and people know that it is a cover-up, but again, it's difficult to understand unless you've been here and know the culture. But the people here are just not the type that are going to rise up and revolt anytime soon. And in some ways that's a blessing. In some ways it's a curse.
Yeah, because what good would it do now? I mean, I just think the executives that stored 600,000 plus fuel rods on top of reactors, they need to do what China does. They need to have trials. I know Japan. Does Japan have the death penalty?
Yes, it does.
It's lethal injection, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think there needs to be some people getting executed over this. And then next time in America, in Europe, in Japan, these executives will think twice. I mean, they should be executed. I'm going to say it right now. When their own engineers are coming out and saying there were cover-ups and safety, execute them. It's that simple.
Well, I tell you what, Japan has a big, long history of leaders committing suicide when they've messed up in a big way, and this is a case where they've messed up in a big way. So who knows what will happen? But at any rate, the idea that the TEPCO and the government has been covering up what's going on and has not been releasing information and is trying to downplay this incident is despicable. And if the puppet commonly known as President Obama, or more accurately his string pullers, were at all serious about the idea of military-backed human intervention, they would have been out here deploying U.S. military assets to do the sarcophagus option and dropping cement on that site. You had an excellent article up yesterday from Hiroshi Takashi at Infowars.com, what they're covering up at Fukushima, that everybody needs to go and read, because he's shooting from the hip, and he is a nuclear expert who's basically saying that they're just ludicrous trying to downplay this, and the only real option left is to bury that place in cement and give up, because the idea that they're ever going to get these reactors going again is ludicrous.
Well, they continue to explode, they continue to smoke, they continue to belch out intensifying levels of radiation, and more here in the U.S. The NCAA March Madness and things, and the Libya thing is starting to eclipse this, with our media telling us that radiation is not a problem. The problem is, even when it comes in low levels, it comes in over and over again as the weeks draw on. It's the cumulative, same thing in Japan. First it was 25 times, then 100 times, then 200, then 400. Now it's 1,600 times. in these areas because it continues to fall on the ground and build up. That's the cumulative effect. That's what's so dangerous about a meltdown.
That's exactly right. It's not even the plume itself, which I hate to say this, but luckily for me, where I am, it's heading east, which is horrible for everyone in North America, obviously. But it's not even the plume itself. It's just the fallout that's coming out around that plant is going to be in the soil for thousands of years, as we know, well, billions, really, the half-life of some of these elements. And it's going to contaminate the food supply. It already is. And the wastewater from these reactors are coming out straight into the Pacific.
Stay there, James. I want to announce the answer to 1984 1776 winners. I'll do that today, but I'm going to play some of them tomorrow and spend more time on it. Biggest response ever. Over 1,500 videos we've counted up that were sent in. All of you are huge winners in the fight against the globalist. We first announced that we were going to do this when the TSA announced cash prizes for TSA fearmongering videos in Walmart and in total 9,000 locations, not just Walmarts, 846 Walmarts and 8,000 plus other facilities, Mall of America, big jumbotrons for videos produced by citizens. We've seen a lot of them. There's sniveling, bootlicking, sycophantic, fear-mongering police state videos. We have absolutely dominated them. 1,500 videos, some of them with 50,000, 100,000 views, total together. No way it's not 1 million or more views. Devastating attack on the globalists in the info war. Every permutation you can imagine of resistance. Very exciting. It was very hard to pick the winners, but we'll be doing that at the very end of the transmission today. I want to go to calls, but we're going to do that when we come back at the start of the next hour in T-minus 5 minutes with Kevin, Scott, William, and others. But other points, because I'm asking some questions here. What do you want to talk? What's on your mind dealing with the devastation? I mean, obviously, these executives, government people that push this, they should all commit seppuku or be executed. I'm not a person that would ever commit suicide. I love life, but if I was one of these reactor people that had lied and done this, I don't know how I could live with myself. I mean, and I'm not here just calling for retribution. They need to be punished so that other executives around the world realize they're not going to get away with this stuff.
Absolutely. There is a precedent being set here, and let's hope it's not a precedent that these companies will get away with this with impunity as people start dropping like flies from this deadly radiation. But one thing that I want to ask is that I'm not here claiming to be an expert on what's going on or saying that I have all the answers, but I want to be an information resource for people, especially English speakers in Japan, to try to get information about what's going on. So I have put up an article today, resources related to the Fukushima nuclear crisis, that has some online resources, some radiation monitoring levels and things that people can use if they're here in Japan. Also some other details like the xenon 133 plume spread that you posted on Prison Planet the other day. I've got that up there too. I want more resources, more online things that people can use to check radiation levels and things like that. So if people out there know of any, please contact me through the website. Also, if people have ideas for guests or for interviews for me to conduct, I'm all ears about that too. And another thing that I think is really important, I'd really like to direct people to some sort of organization that's providing aid and relief to the people over in the stricken area of northeastern Japan. But I just don't know what organization to recommend at this point. Obviously, we know about the Red Cross and the way that it's handled donations in the past, so I don't want to start recommending groups without knowing anything about them. So if people know of any groups or can direct me to some, I'll have to start interviewing representatives and seeing if there's a recommendation I can make, because obviously people there need our help.
Absolutely. I mean, at this point, it's important to give. The problem is the Red Cross, United Way have been caught giving to gun grabbers with the money and normally keeping about half of it. I think small churches, local community organizations, local prefecture governments, I think that's the ticket. And to just give. I know my wife's given some online, and she's tried to do her best. We're trying to get together a shipment. We held back some of the potassium iodate and didn't sell it, that we're trying to get shipped to Japan, but to the right group. We're in there trying to get that together. Perhaps you can recommend a group, because I know Japanese were ordering it from us, and I thought, wow, I don't want to have them order it from us. You know, we held back about 10% or so of it to try to ship to Japan, and then we get so busy, I floundered around finding where to ship that into Japan. Maybe I can ship it into you, and then you can get it to them.